Oh, here we are here. Welcome, everybody. Sorry, a little bit of as is often the case around here, a little bit of an issue there at the very start, but we're good. We made it through. Hi, folks. Pugs Moran. Welcome to a Friday end of week celebratory edition of the High Noon Report. We do this every Monday through Friday, noon till whenever. And what is it? Well, it's me sitting here going through all the news, the headlines, the hot topics, the rumors, whatever they're screaming about on TV, we do it here. And I run it down for you in a kind of a list sort of way. I've been resisting the idea to do it as like a countdown, but we might. So I'll give you what's trending. I'll say, hey, here's a big headline people are talking about. Here's why they're talking about it. Here's what I think. And then we move on. What we don't do here, we don't get bogged down in the weeds of partisan politics. I don't care how you voted. You shouldn't care how I voted. We talk about all kinds of things that are just organically divisive because people are different. And sometimes we see things in different ways, and that's fine. Oftentimes, it has nothing to do with how you voted. So we don't do that. We don't do political talk on this show. Sometimes we have to cover political stories, but I try to give them to you right down the line and we move on. We don't spend, you know what I'm trying to say. There is a kind of talk radio that used to exist in this country, and I'm trying to do it again. Wish me luck. Hey, by the way, if you want to support that kind of talk radio tips, we do take tips on this show. As a matter of fact, we don't only take tips. That's how the show is run. Your kindnesses. I'm your bartender. I'm your pizza delivery guy. Whatever it is, end of week, you want to say, thanks for a good week. You want to drop a little something, I'm going to leave that up. It'll be up from time to time throughout the show. So if you feel so inspired, thank you beforehand, you good people. It's an exciting weekend we're coming up on. So exciting round here. I didn't mean to get y'all excited. This probably means nothing to you, but to me it's a big deal. My 14-year-old son is playing his first high school football game today. It doesn't count, it's like preseason, whatever, but still it's very exciting. Because my 14-year-old is such a little football meathead and has been a little football meathead. Maybe I did it to him. His mom certainly as well. His mom's like a bit of a football meatball herself. So, yeah, I think he didn't really have a choice. So we're very excited. And would you believe this? See, now those of you know that I'm a divorced dad. I have my kid every other weekend. It's one of those kind of setups, My kid lives in a suburb. I live here in fabulous Highland Park, Texas. I live here. My son lives in a northern suburb just north of us here. And so, I am used to going to his games and having to drive all the way from downtown Dallas, all the way out to the suburbs. And then sometimes it's like Exurbia. Did you know there's a place called Prosper? No, of course, I knew there was a place called Prosper before I had to drive up there and watch a scrimmage. My point is this. Tonight's game, his very first game, I can walk to. It's down the block. My boy's coming to his weekend neighborhood to play against. It's fun because this football field where he's going to be playing on today. We have seen endless games there. We go up there and watch games all the time, but he's the enemy. See, that's the weird thing. Like, because when he's there, he roots for the neighborhood, the neighborhood we live in. Yay, we won. But now he's the enemy. So it's very exciting. It's a very exciting night. So he's coming down. That's a night game tonight. His first high school freshman football game. But then here's the situation. Here's why it sucks for me. Like I said, I can walk to the high school. The high school is literally, just down the block and across Mockingbird. It is, well, you got to go up to university. What I'm saying is it's close. It's within walking distance. And I'm used to having to drive to Prosper at 4:30, on a Monday, right? When it's like rush hour traffic. So this is nice for me. So I'm very excited. But here's the thing. It's my weekend with him. And he's not allowed to just stay here. Like all the people who got on the bus at the high school where it started, they have to be accounted for when they get up. They don't want to hear, but it's his dad's weekend and his dad lives in Highland Park. So after the game, I got to drive all the way up there and get him, which I'm perfectly, happy to do. And then we'll probably have to go out and, we have like 11 p.m. Portillo's or something like that. I'm sure a drive-through visit even though he will be. You hungry? Yeah, can we go through? My son actually doesn't sound like that. I sound like that. My son sounds much deeper. His voice changed. It's very disturbing. All right, so that's what we're looking forward to this weekend. I bet you got things to look forward to as well. Mine's a little specific to my personal universe, but hey, let's have some fun. All right, let's get started. Today is, what day is today? Today is the 18th day, the 18th day of August, year of our Lord. Say it with me, 2023. That's right. August 18th, fun fact, is the 230th day of the year. There's 135 more of these. 135. Man, we do this every day. We've been doing this every day we're heading into our third year. That's another interesting thing. And these kinds of things have never meant anything to me because I've never really seen anything I've done with permanence that, 20 years from now, they'd go, today was the first day that you did your show. I don't even remember, what day was the first Pugs and Kelly show? I have no idea. I know it was a couple weeks after September 11th. But this stream, we started doing this show 2 years ago. And it was around this time of year, 2 years ago. We're coming up on our 2-year anniversary of doing this every single day with you guys. That's freaking awesome. Give yourself a round of applause. I mean, I suck. And you people have been here every day encouraging me in my delusion. Thank you. Yeah, I don't know what the 2-year anniversary is. I have no clue. I suppose here's how you could figure it out. You could go to the YouTube page. You could scroll through all the videos and find the first video. I know that there was a test show. There was a little test thing, but that wasn't the first show. And then the early shows I had a partner. Oh my God, you guys. Do you guys remember? Not all of you. Some of you do. Do you guys remember how scared I was? Oh shit. We got to show some video. You guys, do you remember when I had an anxiety attack on the air because I wasn't sure how to do a show by myself? Before I discovered this narcissistic stream of consciousness bullshit that I've been shoving out into the atmosphere the last 2 years. Man, there is a video of me doing a show and I had to stop it because I thought I was going to die. It wasn't a heart attack. I wasn't having a heart attack. I'm very aware of what's going on with my heart. It wasn't that. It was something different. And I thought I was going to die. And I've had this a couple of other times. Everybody knows I have depression, but I don't suffer from anxiety, not to a debilitating way. But I have had anxiety attacks in the past. And that was the last one. Oh my God. I remember the first time I had an anxiety attack. Oh, if my mom is listening, she's going to hate this. And it's probably happened 10 times in my life. I don't know. The first time I had my anxiety attack, I was 10 years old. And I had taken some quarters out of my mom's boyfriend's ashtray in his car or his little thing. I'd taken quarters. I was a kid. I mean, look, it was shitty. I was kind of a shitty kid, but I wasn't horrible. And he confronted me about it. And I was trapped in my mom's bathroom. My mom had a bathroom when I grew up that was all mirrors. It was all 70s mirrors. So there were just nothing but these. And this dude was standing there and he pinned. I wasn't running. I just happened to have been in that room. And he confronted me in that room or something. And he's screaming at me. And I'm looking at him. And my mom is standing right behind him. And I'm in this room of 1,000 mirrors. And I start to cold sweat. And I start to get really dizzy. And I thought I was going to die. And the only thing I remember my mom saying is, "Are you on drugs?" I'm like, what? I'm 11. No. Yeah, that was my first anxiety attack. And then the last anxiety attack that I ever had was on the air. And this is the first time I've ever mentioned it. We all moved on from it because they're very embarrassing. They're very embarrassing. But man, that was, I guess if I'm in therapy and I'm talking this through, I should feel very good about myself because that was a concern, an internal insecurity that I had that developed into a body-wide shutdown in the form of an anxiety attack because I was afraid, not afraid isn't the word, unsure of my ability to do this alone. I beat that monster back, didn't I? Now look at me. Oh my God, I'm insufferable. All right, let's get started with the show. The first thing that we do, we like to give you all the day's events, the hot topics, the current events, all that good stuff. And we'll get to that. You'll be brought up to speed, I promise you. It's a matter of principle, I promise you. Hold on, I need a drink. It's Coke Zero today. Who am I kidding? It's Kroger's knockoff version of Coke Zero, which is every bit as good. Coke Zero, $4 a 2-liter bottle. Kroger's knockoff Coke Zero, $1 a 2-liter bottle. You do the math. I do, because I do a stream for tips. So I'm constantly doing the math in the grocery store. All right. So where were we? Yes. So before we get into the day's topics and all that good stuff, what we like to do is we give you a nice little look back at what the day represented in the past. We called this segment Erstwhile on this day, or if you will, previously on August the 18th. On this day first of all, can I just say about August the 18th? We're going to run through these really quick. What a dumb day. It's like nothing significant. Like some days it's like, what? Today? And the reason this jumps out to me is because when I go through the erstwhile on this day segment, I look for rhythms, I look for patterns, I look for, this happened again, right? Isn't that curious that these things would happen on the same day in a century apart? And maybe, just maybe, it'll give us some indication of what we should expect in the coming hours of this very episode of August the 18th. On this day, this is a cruddy day. On this day in 1590, John White, the governor of the Roanoke colony, returns from a supply trip to England and finds his settlement deserted. Bum, bum, bum. Yeah, I mentioned this because yesterday, isn't this weird? So, yesterday was the anniversary of the 1585 landing on the Roanoke colony. And now here we are today, one day later. It's like 5 years later and a day they showed up and they were like, everybody's missing. We went through the story of the Roanoke colony, the lost colony. Sir Walter Raleigh founded it. Raleigh. What is it? Raleigh, North Carolina. So Sir Walter Raleigh, but I don't think he pronounced it that way. I think that's the American Southern spin on that name. But anyway, so we'll move on. Listen to yesterday's show. You can catch all the past shows, pugscast.com. We go into the Roanoke, the lost colony of Roanoke story. So this is just the next day and 5 years later. On this day in 1903, German engineer Karl Halo allegedly flies himself in his self-made motor gliding aeroplane device, aero bicycle. I probably call it something like that. This was apparently 4 months before the Wright brothers at Kitty Hawk. They say, for the history, they say allegedly, because what? Nobody saw it? Yeah, that's the ticket. I believe it's possible. I believe it's absolutely possible. I mean, we think that Henry Ford invented the automobile. In this country, we think Henry Ford, I know that some people don't, some people know. But, a lot of people, who invented the automobile? That would be Henry Ford. No. What Henry Ford is an incredible innovator of the assembly line and the production process and all of that stuff, as well as being a well-documented Jew hater. However, separate the art from the artist. The art that he created, spurred the Industrial Revolution. Yeah, that he didn't invent the car though. Yeah, I mean he was like the first big car guy in America. So I don't know. Did this German dude invent the aeroplane, the aerocycle, or whatever they called it, something like that? Did he invent it is it 4 months or 4 years? 4 months before the Wright brothers? Who knows? I don't care. I'm still going with the Wright brothers, because America and such. On this day in 1920, the 19th Amendment to the United States Constitution is ratified. Anybody? 19th Amendment. I'm going to act like I know, but I don't, because it's the next thing. It says the next thing. It's the suffrage one. It's the one for the women. It's when we all got together and voted to make women suffer for the next 100 years. 19th Amendment. On this day in 1920, on this day in 1958, Vladimir Nabokov's controversial novel Lolita is published in the United States. What is this? I mentioned this. Hold on. I mentioned this because the film Lolita is one of my favorites. Stanley Kubrick. Yeah, you guys, if you've been watching for 2 years, and some of you have, you know I'm like totally in the tank for Stanley Kubrick. I love everything that he does, except 2001. That's right. That's the exception that proves the rule that Stanley Kubrick is the greatest film director of all time. So Lolita, I never read Nabokov's Lolita. It was first published on this day. I never read that. I mean, I heard about it. I didn't have to read it because I was a Police fan. Yeah, did you know that the Police, so the book that was published on this day, what year? Just make sure what year it was. 1958. Nabokov's controversial novel Lolita is published in the United States. Controversial, to be sure. Why is it controversial? Well, because the story of Lolita, see, again, I don't know the book. I know the movie. I know the American Stanley Kubrick reinterpretation. So it's about Lolita is a young girl, and by young I mean she's like 16, 17 years old. She's a senior in high school. She's her dad's dead, or her dad ran off, left her, you know, she's got daddy issues, that whole thing. And her mom is Shelley Winters. Again, this is the Nabokov book that I'm talking about. He actually wrote, and then Shelley Winters. No, there's the movie. Shelley Winters is her mom, and Shelley Winters is sort of this like milfy older mom who's just looking to get a man because her husband ran off on her. So she gets this boarder, this guy, Humbert. He's like a really straight-laced, super normal, really well-respected college professor who's in town over the summer because he's lecturing at the college town that this house exists in. Well, he boards at the house of this crazy lady, Shelley Winters. And she's not crazy. She's just desperate. She's so, she's just so desperate for a man. And so he lives there. And Shelley Winters tries to seduce him, and she tricks him into like thinking that they're in a relation. Not just trick him, but no, he tricks her actually. Cause see, he falls in love with the daughter. The daughter, Lolita, hates her mom. And the whole time the mom is trying to seduce this boarder, the minute the mom leaves, the daughter shows up doing the exact same seduction, except just not Shelley Winters, you know? And so it's like, that's what Lolita's about. It's about temptation. It's about forbidden fruit. It's fascinating. It's great. Our generation X, we're probably most familiar with, hold on a second. Sorry. Let me get rid of this. I need to close some of these. I'm having a problem. We're probably, our only familiarity with the Nabokov story is probably from the Police song, Don't Stand So Close to Me. You know, we used to do these bits. I got into an argument once about this. We used to do these bits about inappropriate song lyrics, you know, like one of my favorites is the Beatles' Run for Your Life. The Beatles have a song called Run for Your Life, which is basically just 3 minutes of them threatening their girlfriends that if they ever cheat on them, they'll murder them. You better run for your life. She's only 17. You know what I mean? Like we go through these inappropriate rock lyrics. And I remember I got into a debate with somebody once about, you know, they tried to enter into Exhibit, Don't Stand So Close to Me to the Police. And I was like, no, that's not inappropriate. That is a song adaptation of a novel, of a classic novel. Now, if you want to say Nabokov was inappropriate, fine, go back to 1958 and join everybody else. Because everybody in 1958 said Nabokov's book Lolita was inappropriate. But it's 1983 and these are the Police, and it was not inappropriate. So here's the lyrics. I don't know if you've ever read the lyrics to Don't Stand So Close to Me or what that even pertains to. Don't Stand So Close to Me is the temptation of a teacher and a student who is trying to seduce him. Young teacher, the subject of schoolgirl fantasy. She wants him so badly, knows what she wants to be. Inside him, there's longing. This girl's an open page. Bookmarking. She's so close now. This girl is half his age. Don't stand so. Yeah. So that's basically our generation's understanding of the Lolita song. And I don't even think many of us knew. I didn't know that until a long time later when I'm like, hey, this lyric is weird. And then I was like, oh, and that book by Nabokov. And then you get to that line in the song. And you're like, oh, okay, he is. This is sort of like a reinterpretation of that book by Nabokov, which is a lyric in the song. On this day in 1963, See, I told you there's not a whole lot that happened on this day throughout history, so I'm stretching. I'm just trying to make hay. Hope you're enjoying it. Hope you're enjoying my struggle. On this day in 1963, the Civil Rights Movement, James Meredith becomes the very first African-American to graduate from the University of Mississippi. What a thing, man. What a thing. We talked the other day about Shannon Faulkner. Shannon Faulkner was a woman who dared to go up against the system and become the first female to matriculate through the Citadel, which had been a military school, a military training school, a military school that was exclusively men. Now, it was ruled unconstitutional to forbid women, so Shannon Faulkner was the first one through the door. She was going to be the first woman to show, to represent, and she failed. And she failed in a whole bunch of, 1998 misogynist old men were like, see, because women can't do. And then, the next slew of women came in the class behind her, and they all went through. And one of them's Nancy Mace. One of them is the Congresswoman Nancy Mace. So she failed. She was the first through the door, and she failed. Now let's take that and how we reacted to that. And let me tell you how we reacted to Shannon Faulkner failing at the Citadel. We moved on after a couple of weeks of jokes. We moved on. Totally forgot about it. Most people don't even know who Shannon Faulkner is. Now let's take James Meredith. James Meredith is the kid who had to be walked into the University of Mississippi by state police. It's that iconic photo of the governor of Mississippi standing in the door, forbidding this black student from getting an education at a state university. That's what James Meredith did. Think of what James Meredith. Let's fast forward 10 days from that moment. He's in his dorm room. He's studying. Dude ended up graduating, is my point. I mean, what do you think that experience was like for him? And he still graduated. Now, the experience was apparently difficult for Shannon Faulkner, and she had the luxury of quitting. James Meredith didn't. I don't think we understand. This is a big deal that he not only was the guy first through the door. I say all the time, pioneers get the arrows and settlers get the land. James Meredith was a pioneer, but he made it. He made it. He ended up settling the land. He graduated. That's a very big deal. And I really don't know that James Meredith is as appreciated or known for this as he is. We all know Jackie Robinson. I mean, imagine if he had dropped out. Imagine what would have happened, what people would have said in 1963 if he had dropped out, if he had failed, if he had failed out. I mean, come on, man. So congratulations, James Meredith. How tough that must have been for him to stick that out. On this day in 1963, James Meredith becomes the first African-American to graduate from the University of Mississippi. On this day in 1976, the Soviet Union's robotic probe Luna 24 successfully lands on the moon. Ha! You guys suck. Hey, have that thing sweep up our garbage from when we actually put like 12 men up there. Russia, 1976. That's how far. Space race. It's a race to the moon. I mean, after we got to the moon on my birthday, July 20th, 1969, after we got to the moon, that's when it kind of became clear that it wasn't a race at all. The Soviet Union wasn't anywhere near putting people on the moon. 1976, they landed their first rover on the moon. 1969, we're like, they're on our heels. No, they weren't. But, back then you couldn't believe a damn thing them Ruskies were saying because communism and whatnot. All right, moving on. Buona, buona, buona. Today is a birthday. Buona, buona, buona for someone like you. This is where we go through birthdays. This is where we talk about people. See, did you see how lame erstwhile on this day was? No, it's like there's nothing. 1976, the last thing. And was that even significant? It was just an opportunity for me to mock the Soviet lunar program. And I took it. Because, being a guy born on July 20th, 1969, any opportunity I get to mock the Soviet lunar program, I will take. Man, it's getting hot. Yeah, we'll get to that. Oh, my God. Let's do some birthdays. Born on this day in 1834, Marshall Field. I'll tell you this about Marshall Field. A lot of you, especially my Texas friends, Marshall Field is. Marshall Field, on Christmas Day, if you were going to get clothes, I'm talking about when I was growing up. On Christmas Day, if you were going to get clothes and you unwrapped the box, there were 4 department stores essentially that you were looking at. Were you getting clothes from Sears? God, I hope not. Were you getting clothes from J.C. Penney? That might be okay, but somebody's cheap. Are you getting clothes from Carson's? Ooh, okay. All right, something. But when you ripped up that paper and you saw that Marshall Fields logo, you were like, yeah, somebody bought me a nice sweater. Marshall Fields. That was a badass store when I was growing up. It's like Marshall Fields is like the Neiman Marcus of Chicago. Except now it's Macy's. Now Macy's came in like, I don't know, 20 years ago and went, we bought Marshall Fields from those silver-spooned heirs to the Marshall Field fortune. And now it's Macy's. They couldn't even, wait, is the downtown Marshall Fields, is the flagship Marshall, that 100-year-old grand department store on State Street, is that still Marshall Fields? Is that like, or is that Macy's? Because you should at least keep the cornerstone, one of the most important department stores in the history of Marshall Field invented the concept of the modern department store. He read like in 1905. What do you mean you're going to sell everything in one place? Marshall Field was a genius. Born on this day in 1920. Happy birthday to a lady we've already name checked. It is Shelley Winters' birthday. Shelley Winters, man. Shelley Winters is awesome. Whether it's Titanic. I mean, I don't think I've ever seen her when she wasn't freaking out. Nobody freaked out better than Shelley Winters. That was her whole, here, wait a second, I got an example. All right, I'll give you this example. Here's Shelley Winters freaking out. Shelley, this one, and you know what? Since we already talked about it, why not? Shelley Winters freaking out from Kubrick's great film, Lolita. And this works because if you've been listening, I already gave you, hold on. Jeez, you're going to give me the full commercial on YouTube, really. Okay. This is, I already explained this to you. So you know what this is. This is a fancy college professor who's staying at a boarding house over the summer while he lectures at the local university. And he's staying at the boarding house of like an older, desperate woman who wants a man because her husband ran off, and her daughter, who is 16 or 17-year-old Lolita. All right, so this is Shelley Winters. It's her birthday. She was born today in 1920. Let's watch Shelley Winters freak out a little. Okay, here you go. We got to fast forward. Here we go. All right, here's the smoldering freak out of Shelley Winters. Okay.
It's my diary. We don't read other people's diaries, do we? Shelley, that's my diary. Give it to me, please. Please. No.
The Hayes woman. The cow. The obnoxious mama, the brainless Baba. Well, the stupid Hayes is no longer your dupe.
That book, please.
You leave
Give
it
it to me,
alone
please.
or I'll
No,
scream out the window.
Now let's discuss this. Let's sit down and discuss it quietly, like
You're a
civilized
monster.
people.
All right, what she's reacting to, I suppose there should be some context. She found his diary and she's reading in his diary about how he's willing to think the cow, the dupe, her. He's willing to let her think that he loves her if it means he can spend more time with her daughter. So she has now read the diary where the man she thinks she's married to now is actually in love with her daughter, and she's freaking out.
You're a disgusting, despicable, loathsome, criminal fraud.
Don't do that.
Get out of my way. Get out of my way.
No,
I'm getting out of here. Go on. Get out of my way. I'm leaving here today. You can have all of it. But you are never going to see that miserable brat again!
Charlotte, please, listen to me.
All right, that's all. If you have any interest whatsoever in seeing the movie, you don't want to know what happens next. But there you go. The great Shelley Winters celebrating a birthday today. The dupe. The cow. She does that same thing in Titanic. Or not Titanic, the Poseidon Adventure. Did I say she was in the Titanic earlier? I think I did. I didn't mean that. Poseidon Adventure. Anyway, Shelley Winters. Happy birthday to her. Born on this day in 1920. Born on this day in 1927, Rosalind Carter, former First Lady of the United States. They're still, those two, man. You go. Like at this point, you just like, you go. Like every breath. You're like, one more breath. Good for her, man. Isn't one of them in hospice? Oh, good Lord. Isn't one of those, oh, man. It's going to be a big one. It's going to be a big one. Either one of them. Either it's going to be a big one because they're so old. It's going to be, well, also because Jimmy was a president and she was a first lady, but because they grew to be so old. Rosalind Carter, happy birthday to her, celebrating today. She's 96, something. Yeah, she's 96 years old today. Born on this day in 1927. Born on this day in 1928, Marge Schott. You guys remember Marge Schott? Marge Schott was the owner of the Cincinnati Reds, and she was a broad's broad. She got married to a guy who owned a whole bunch of car dealerships in the 60s, and he died suddenly in 68. She became I think the second female owner of a Major League Baseball team. And she was a crazy racist Nazi. She was. All the stuff that came out about her, all the controversies, man, the stuff that she said for 30 years publicly in the Cincinnati press. Had she just tweeted one sentence from one of her statements in 2023, there'd be a mob in front of her house. Major League Baseball would suspend operations of the Cincinnati. She called Dave Parker $1 million N. Like publicly, like just he's just $1 million N-word. What else did she have? She had a collection of Nazi memorabilia. She collected Nazi memorabilia, and she told a room full of people who were running the Cincinnati Reds that if they hired a Jew, they were fired. Happy birthday, Marge Schott. That's a good thing she was born when she was born, because look, she was so bad that she took it in the 80s. Like she was criticized in the 80s. Do you know how bad you had to be? I mean, my God, nobody cared. There were no rules in the 70s and 80s. People said racist stuff casually all the time. She was a good example of one. She was funny. She also was kind of a troublemaker. Like she liked to irritate her players. She resented paying players this much money. She had no scouts. The Cincinnati Red had no scouting department because she refused to pay people to sit and watch baseball. She said, people who sit and watch baseball pay me. She didn't have a scouting department for like 30 years. I don't know. Anyway, I'm a big red machine and all that stuff. I guess she just left it to the boys on the field, and I don't know, whatever. But Marge Schott, born on this day in 1928, dead in 2004. Born on this day in 1933, Roman Polanski. There's a guy who got away with a whole bunch of stuff. Why does Roman Polanski? Seriously, this Me Too thing. And I know people could say, what do you mean? Polanski's been Me Too'd. He can't come to the country without fear of being arrested for raping that child in Jack Nicholson's hot tub back in 1970 or whatever. Yeah. Everybody throws all this garbage on Roman Polanski. What about Jack Nicholson? The whole thing that got Roman Polanski in trouble was because he went over to Jack Nicholson's house and got in a hot tub with like a 12-year-old. Has anybody ever looked into Jack Nicholson's role in this whole thing? Well, Jack Nicholson has gone on to be one of the great treasures of Hollywood history. Hey, Jack, why was there a sexualized 12-year-old in your hot tub when Roman Polanski got into all that trouble? What's going on there? Nobody asked that question. Meanwhile, Roman Polanski's been making movies for 30 years. They don't get wide distribution in America, but it ain't stopped him. He still wins award for being a genius. He was a grown-ass man who had sex with a 12-year-old, okay, in Jack Nicholson's hot tub. Never forget that. Jack, have you forgotten? Any new details about that day pop into your head? My first question for you, Jack, would be this. What was a 12-year-old doing in your hot tub? Hello. Born on this day in 1936, Robert Redford. He'll get that. Robert Redford was a massive star, but he's not like when I was like, Robert Redford draft. And then I was like, no, I don't want to do it. What? Butch Cassidy, The Sting? Can't, I guess all the president's men. He's so quiet. Like, it's just that he's so quiet and low key. And like for the last 40 years, he's been like, running Sundance and his production company. And every once in a while, Robert Redford will do an acting role and it'll be a big deal. Robert Redford's doing this, But he's not Al Pacino or, God forbid, Robert De Niro, who we tried to do a draft of Robert De Niro yesterday, and it broke the draft board. Has been fixed, though. You'll be happy to know. Happy birthday, Robert Redford. The Sting is such a good movie. Butch Cassidy and Sundance is such a good movie. All the President's Men with Dustin Hoffman is such a good movie. Born on this day in 1943, another guy who's absolutely hysterical, and I have the luxury of the happy happenstance of rewatching, being in the middle of a re-binge of a series that he did about a 5-episode arc on, and we are right now at this very minute enjoying Martin Mull's 5-episode arc on Veep. Martin Mull is celebrating a birthday today in 1943. That dude is so funny. That dude, that guy, I mean, he's not funny if you don't see the whole context of it. Like, if you just saw Martin Mull for the first time, like if I showed my 15-year-old Martin Mull do a comedy scene, I'm not talking about a stand-up comic. I'm talking about an actor who's funny when he's acting, a comedic actor. Martin, if I showed my 14-year-old son Martin Mull in a couple of scenes from, I don't know, maybe my kid would get it because he's really into comedy, so he might get it. But I don't think regular people do. Martin Mull is so dry. Martin Mull is almost like a Charles Grodin type, although Charles Grodin takes it in a different direction. Martin Mull has always been sort of like what Larry David's character in Curb Your Enthusiasm is, except maybe a more Midwestern raised version. Whereas Larry David is a New York Jew who's got all of that cultural baggage and that he brings to his persona. Martin Mull doesn't have. Martin Mull's more of like a middle America. I'm from Indiana, kind of a thing. Not a rube. I mean, he's actually kind of a sophisticated guy and elitist in the way he talks down to people. Anyway, happy birthday, Martin Mull. I love you. You're hysterical. Martin Mull and Fred Willard were an incredible comedy team because Martin Mull was so dry and Martin Mull was so straight and hysterical in his dryness and his straightness, but never more funny when reacting to Fred Willard's just abject stupidity, which is really the greatness of Martin Mull, reacting to the abject stupidity of his comedy partner, Fred Willard. Born on this day in 1943, Martin Mull. He's one of the greats. Born on this day in 1952. How about this one? Here's another one of the greats. Remember I said we got the draft board fixed? We sure did, because it's Patrick Swayze's birthday. Swayze draft. If you're from Gen X, you might look at a Robert Redford and go, I got to do one draft today between Patrick Swayze and Robert Redford. You're Gen X, you're going Swayze 100% of the time. The draft board is not fully functional, so we will not be inviting people to camp. But we will do a 5-round NFL-style draft with the first overall pick constituting the most important or favorite work in the Patrick Swayze collection. With the first overall pick, we here at Pugs & Company select Pain Don't Hurt. Roadhouse! With the second pick in the Patrick Swayze draft, we here at Pugs & Company select Wolverine's Red Dawn. With the third pick in the this movie, I love this movie. I held a girl's hand while watching this movie. Yeah, it was one of those like, maybe the movie's not that great, but like you're like, hey, that was I think the first time I held a girl's hand in a movie. Youngblood. Yeah, the hockey movie with Rob Lowe. Pretty sure the reason I got the hand holding was because she was staring up at Patrick Swayze and Rob Lowe for 2 hours, but whatever. Youngblood, hockey movie, comes in number 3 in the Patrick Swayze draft. Number 4. I spent a good 20 years ridiculing this movie with my friends. We used to make fun of this movie so much. And then after 20 years, it gets to 30 years, and then it becomes a memory, and then you're like, man, I love Point Break. Remember Point Break? Bank robber movie, Patrick Swayze, Keanu Reeves. That was the dumbest, stupidest. When it came out, loved it. Don't get me wrong, loved it because it was fun. It was that Hollywood fun of the 90s, where things blew up. We didn't consider about the homeless people who were killed in the carnage. It's a different time. Point Break was a fun movie. Stupid, though. Made fun of it for 20 years. Watched it with my son about 2 years ago. Love Point Blank. Love it. Don't think it's stupid anymore. I think it's actually a pretty cool movie. And number 5, there is no denying that this is the dumbest. First of all, the greatest. A singular example of just hysterical casting. One of my favorite examples of it. I should do a list of hysterical casting. And that's not people who were cast who ended up being bad, but just on paper, it just looks absurd. Number 5 in the Patrick Swayze draft, I'm going with Next of Kin. Do you guys remember Next of Kin? Patrick Swayze's a hillbilly who moves up to the big O city and gets like roped in or under the thumb of like the big city mob boss. And so hillbilly Patrick, he calls down to his brothers and his kin folk to come on up to the big city. And they all come up. They bring an army of hillbillies and they're going to go up against the Italian mafia. All right. The casting that I love. Liam Neeson as like an inbred hillbilly from Kentucky as the leader of this redneck army. Oh, a young Liam Neeson. That's why Next of Kin makes it. It's great. All right, so there you go. That is your Patrick Swayze draft on this his birthday. First overall pick, Roadhouse. Second, Red Dawn. Third, Youngblood. Fourth, Point Break. And 5, Next of Kin. I know, but you didn't even say Ghost because I'm not a woman or a gay man. Those movies don't appeal to me. I am a straight guy who well, it's not true because, I do have a list of rom-coms that I like. Don't anybody besmirch When Harry Met Sally or The Notebook. I will knife fight you. Those movies are beautiful. And don't catch me in a sour mood around Christmas time and start talking crap about Love Actually. By the way, this Christmas will be, I think, the 5th year in a row that I try and convince my 14-year-old son to watch Love Actually with me. He wants none of that. I'm going to have to win a bet at some point during the football season, and I'm going to have to think ahead. And I'm going to have to make, if he loses the bet, he's got to watch Love Actually with me. That's how I get him to watch most of my thing. Lucky for me, he makes dumb wagers with me, and he loses bets all the time to me. And I don't take money from him. If I lose, it's money. It's always money. $20. And I'm like, you don't have $20. He's like, what do you want? And I'm like, okay, then you got to watch a movie with me and you can't complain. Deal, and so that's how he's going to end up eventually watching Love Actually with me. And he's going to like it. He's going to like it because he's a good person. And I know that after he gets through like the first 15 minutes of like being angry that he's being forced to do this, he's going to get into the story and he's going to be like, Dad, that was really good. I can't tell you all the movies that we fought about that at the end of it, he's like, Dad, that was really good. One of my greatest victories was American Werewolf in London. He thought it was a stupid English movie. He said, I don't want to watch some stupid English movie, some old time movie. I'm like, it's 1980. He goes, yeah, old time. I go, oh, 1980 is not old time, but okay. It's in color. I remember yelling that. It's in color, and they got really great effects. And then I realized that he's kind of a CGI nerd. So the groundbreaking effects of American Werewolf in London, as filmed by John Landis in 1980, and they weren't going to hold up to him in 2023. He was going to be like, that's like the worst werewolf ever. That's what I was expecting. But no, at the end of it, he was like, did they make a second one? That's what he said. He said, did they make a second one? And I go, yeah, it's called American Werewolf in Paris. And he goes, I'd watch that. Bing, 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 bing. There you go. You got to take your father-son moments when you get them. I don't know if my son has familiarity with Swayze. I may have to roll out a Swayze film festival at some point. All right, 1957, born on this day. Here's a guy I tell you from time to time that I have complicated relationships with. This is not somebody that I know. Never met this guy. And I would think I would, because in all the years that I've been doing radio, whether in Chicago or Dallas, starting in 1992, it was kind of like, and I interviewed met just about every comic or, person that was going around doing radio interviews in that period of time. Never met Dennis Leary. It's Dennis Leary's birthday. Born on this day in 1957. Dennis Leary, I say I have a complicated relationship with Dennis Leary because one, loved him the first time we got to know him. We go, where does he go back to? MTV, right? Remote Control. He was sort of do you remember Remote Control, the game show on MTV that was so awesome? Well, if you're Gen X, you do. Kari Wurr. It was Ken Ober. It was Ken Ober. Kari Wurr was like the Vanna White. And then for some reason, they had an Ed McMahon. And that Ed McMahon was a young Dennis Leary. That's the first place we saw him. And then MTV kind of made Dennis Leary famous. And he would go on to create an incredibly great television show for FX that just, man, I don't know if it stands the test of time. I'm afraid to rewatch it because Rescue Me on FX was such an incredible television series. And Dennis Leary created it. What is my problem with Dennis Leary? Why is it complicated? Because Dennis Leary is a joke thief. Dennis Leary's entire act, the whole act that made him famous, was absolutely 100% stolen from someone who I think is the greatest comedian to ever walk the earth, and that was Bill Hicks. Dennis Leary, who was friends with Bill Hicks, Dennis Leary took his entire act and created that chain-smoking, pissed-off persona. It was a little different than Bill. Dennis was from Boston, so he had this kind of Boston. Bill was a Texan. Bill was angry and hot, but he was a little bit more laid back about, everything. And it sucks because Bill Hicks died. Like, Bill Hicks never had a chance to really fight back. If you think I'm just making all this up, here you go. Here's the actual, this comes from the Wikipedia page. This is the actual story as it went out. Dennis Leary, American comedian, actor, producer, and screenwriter. For many years, Leary had been friends with fellow comedian Bill Hicks. But when Leary's comedy album, No Cure for Cancer, was released, Leary was accused of stealing Hicks' act and material, ending their friendship abruptly. In April of 1993, the Austin Comedy News remarked on the similarities of Leary's performance, saying, "Watching Leary is like seeing Hicks from 2 years ago. He smokes with the same mannerisms. He sports the same attitude, the same clothes. He touches on almost all the same themes. Leary even invokes Jim Fixx." That's a famous Bill Hicks joke. When asked about this, Hicks told the magazine, this is what Bill Hicks told the magazine when they wrote this. When asked about it, Bill Hicks told the magazine, "I have a scoop for you. I stole Leary's act. I camouflaged it with punchlines. And to really throw people off, I did it years before he did." At least 3 stand-up comedians have gone on the record stating they believe Leary stole Hicks' material. His comedic persona, and attitude. One similar routine was about the so-called Judas Priest suicide trial, during which Hicks says, "I don't think we lost a cancer cure." Dennis Leary's 2003 Comedy Central roast, on Dennis Leary's Comedy Central roast, comedian Lenny Clark, a friend of Leary's, said there was a carton of cigarettes backstage from Bill Hicks with the message, "Wish I had gotten these to you sooner." The joke was eventually cut from the final broadcast. Dennis Leary. The guy who gets roasted gets, the reason they get such a big name is because they get final cut. So they watch the tape and then they decide, and people are like, "No, you gotta," that one got cut. The reference was still, apparently it's something that sticks with Dennis Leary, something that bothers him. I mean, incredibly similar to Leary was in Montreal to host the Nasty Show at Club Soda, and Colleen was coordinating the talent. So she was standing backstage when she heard Leary doing material that sounded incredibly similar to old Bill Hicks riffs, including his perennial Jim Fixx joke. Keith Richards outlived Jim Fixx, the runner and health nut dude. The plot thickens. That's part of the joke. When Leary came off stage, Colleen, more stunned than angry, said, "Hey, you know that's Bill Hicks' material. Do you know that's his material?" Leary just stood there, stared at her without saying a word, and briskly left the dressing room. According to the book, True said, that's Colleen True. True said that upon hearing a tape of Leary's album, No Cure for Cancer, Bill was furious. All these years, aside from the occasional jibe, he had pretty much shrugged off Leary's lifting. Comedians borrowed, stole stuff, and even bought bits from one another. Milton Berle and Robin Williams were famous for it. But this was different. Leary had practically line for line taken huge chunks of Bill's act and then recorded it. In a 2008 appearance on the Opie and Anthony show, comedian Louis C.K. also claimed that Leary stole his "I'm an Asshole" routine, which was then extended upon and turned into a hit song for Leary. On a later episode of the same show, Leary challenged this assertion by claiming to have co-written that song before C.K. I don't know. So it's complicated, man. It seems to me like Dennis Leary was at a point in his career where he was willing to do absolutely anything to break through. Maybe he felt like he was treading water on MTV. He certainly wouldn't have gotten The Ref, or, he did a bunch of movies if he hadn't gone to the next level. And what is it that he thought would get him to the next level? Let's just steal my friend's material and let me just do it. Come on. I mean, that's some nonsense. Born on this day in what year was Dennis Leary born? I mean, it doesn't change Rescue Me. It doesn't change the fact that Rescue Me is an incredibly good show. So that's why I say it's complicated. Dennis Leary, born on this day in 1957. Born on this day in 1969. Oh my God, we've got what's it called? Quadruple cousins. We usually call them umbilical cousins. People born on the same exact day, exact same year. We got 4 of them. We got 4. This is rare. We've got 4 fairly, and they're all, not too different from one another, really. At least 2 groups. So I'll give them in sets. Here's the first set of umbilical cousins. We've got Everlast, of course, from House of Pain. Turn Your Lights On, Whitey Ford, all that. Everlast, he's pretty cool. I like him. Everlast, born on this day in 1969. Umbilical cousins with Master Killer from the Wu-Tang. Ooh, I bet that was a difficult pregnancy. Oh, those 2 boys. All right, how about this one? How about these 2 umbilical cousins born on this day, also in the year of 1969? Edward Norton and Christian Slater. Couple of actors. Anyway, there you go. Happy birthday. Born on this day in 1970, Malcolm Jamal Warner, one of the biggest a-hole celebrities I ever met. Also one of the first. I was an intern. I was working an overnight show. I was producing it. And Malcolm Jamal Warner came on to be interviewed by this guy named Eddie Schwartz. He was the host I was producing for. Chicago legend, late night talk show host. Used to get all these big stars. So I was very excited. And I was new. And Malcolm Jamal Warner came in, and it was like 10 o'clock at night, and he's doing the interview. And he was just a dick. He was just a dick. He was an arrogant, self-centered. He came in with like a posse of like 10 dudes. And we're not talking like he came in with a team of professionals in suits with clipboards and iPads. No, he came in with like a crew of his boys. Like they were going to go hit the movies after this. They were going to go hit the town, and they were obnoxious. They trashed the green room, not trashed, like kicked holes in the wall. They just made a mess. They didn't even think to clean anything up. They were snotty. They were, oh God. And Malcolm Jamal Warner was like the leader of this assholery. Malcolm Jamal Warner, born on this day in 1970. Of course, he's Theo from The Cosby Show. Born on this day in 1975. Here's one we're going to say, God, I love this girl. Happy birthday to the Mick, Caitlin Olsen. Nah, she ain't the Mick. I said that as a joke. She's Sweet D. It's Sweet D's birthday. It's the Philly Bird, the bird girl of Philadelphia, Sweet D. Of course, we're talking about It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Caitlin Olsen, man. She's not one of the Olsens. She's not. She is not Mary Kate or Ashley or Elizabeth. She's married. She's Caitlin Olsen. She's different. Although she does look like you could fit her in there. If you got all the Olsen girls, Mary Kate, Elizabeth, Ashley, you get those together and you slide Caitlin Olsen in there. Oh, yeah, you'll be like, oh, she could totally be one of this. She's not, though. She is not. She's not the funny one. And she is funny. Caitlin Olsen is so funny, man. What an incredibly gifted comedic actor. Oh, she's terrific. I'm watching, I'm catching up on the new season of Wrexham, that show with Ryan Reynolds and Mac from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, where, hey, let's buy a soccer team. They bought a soccer team in Wales, and it's like a documentary, kind of like a Hard Knocks, but it follows Ryan Reynolds and Mac as they try and build this soccer team up from the depths of like just being sucky. And a recent episode, they went to a big game. There was a big game for Wrexham. And so the owners came with their wives. And, of course, you've got Ryan Reynolds, and he's there. And so this episode featured him and Blake Lively, his just obnoxiously perfect wife. Blake Lively. When you see Blake Lively standing next to Ryan Reynolds, by the way, I have added them after this episode. I keep a running list of my favorite Hollywood couples. Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively are now in that mix. But they're joining Mac and Caitlin Olsen. It's Caitlin Olsen's birthday. They were already on that list. So in this episode of Wrexham, both Mac and Ryan bring their wives to the game. Both Mac and Ryan have famous wives. Mac from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia happens to be married to Dee from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. So it was really cool. It was really cool to see, like, not Mac and Dee from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, but to see Rob and Caitlin, who are the real people who play those roles that we love so much, who are actually in real life in love, even though on the show they're not in love. On the show, Rob's gay. And then their kid, they have a son. Rob and Dee, or Mac and Dee from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia have a son who's about 12 years old, who looks exactly like both of them. I don't know which one he is. I'm like, oh my God. He's got his mom's comedic sort of affectations, like movements and stuff. Like they were watching a game together, the dad, Rob, and this little kid. They're watching the game together on the couch, and the kid started busting his dad's chops. And it was exactly the way Dee would bust somebody's chops, and It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. So that was fun to see. Happy birthday, Caitlin Olsen. We love you. Born on this day in 1975. Born on this day in 1978, Andy Samberg. He's very funny. He was born on this day in 1978. Born on this day in 1980, Jeremy Shockey. We forget about Jeremy Shockey. He was a real player. Born on this day in 1992. Oh, my God. Gen X, want to feel old? Want to feel old, Gen X? Here we go. Guess who's 92? 31 years old. Not fair. Oh, my God. You're kidding me. Hold on. Oh, there we go. Check this out, you guys. Hold on. Yeah, okay, we'll start there. That's cool. Yeah. This one comes with visual accompaniment. Guess who's 31 years old? Holy cow. Boom. Frances Bean Cobain, the baby of Courtney Love and Kurt Cobain, is 31. Holy. Here comes another one of them anxiety attacks. Look at her. I want to scroll through some of these pictures of her. She is the sole heir and executor to the Kurt Cobain estate. She's a young lady worth about $1 billion. 31 years old. 31. If you told me she was 17, I'd be like, yeah, that checks out. It's been a couple years. She's 31. Look at her. Look at her there. She kind of looks like her mom there, right? So let's go through some of these pictures. Let's see if we can figure out who she looks like more. I can see her mom, definitely. She's got Kurt's eyes, right? Isn't that the problem? That no matter what, her eyes, from the bridge of her nose up, she's going to look exactly like Kurt Cobain. Look, oh my God. Oh my God. Is this like a Photoshop? Did somebody take Kurt Cobain's face and put it? Look at that. Oh my God, she looks exact. And here's the problem with this. It's those eyes are so obviously the eyes of Kurt Cobain. And to anybody that recognizes this, who sees those eyes and goes, Kurt Cobain, we're a bit clouded when we see them on her. Like, I'm looking at her and I'm going, I don't know, is that beautiful or is that weird? Because it looks like Kurt Cobain. I don't know. Like, if I didn't know she was Kurt Cobain's daughter, I might be like, wow, that girl has really beautiful eyes. But because I know she's Kurt Cobain's daughter, it's like, that girl looks like Kurt Cobain. Let's see if she's pretty. She is a pretty girl. She's a pretty girl. Look at her. I'm a punk rock icon. I'm the daughter of Courtney and Kurt. Well, she looks good there. That's how she goes to court. Not that she goes to court because she's not trouble. She is not trouble. She seems to be look, she wasn't raised and didn't live like Kurt and Courtney lived, right? She was raised in private schools with huge amounts of money, making sure that she spoke 5 languages by the time she was 12, right? That's how she was raised. At some point, they all knew, especially after Kurt died, that she was the sole heir to whatever Kurt Cobain's publishing and all that we're going to make over the next 100 years. So maybe she seems to be raised all right. She's already divorced. Oh, my God. All right, we got to stop. We got to stop. We're not allowed to feel this old. All right, Moo, happy birthday, Francis Bean. Run through the rest of these. Is that it? Yeah, that's it. That's going to be the last birthday. Okay, moving around quickly now. Let's get on to this segment. These are the people who've died. These are the people who've died. Oh, I totally forgot. We call this Heaven or Hell now, right? Yeah, this is now Heaven or Hell. Okay, we'll fix that for Monday. We're no longer deciding whether we care that they're dead. We're now just looking at the person and going to figure out whether or not they are in heaven or hell now that they are dead. Now, I would encourage the chat room. Here's how this works. I will give you the name first, and then I will do a little bit of a blah, 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 blah about them. While I'm doing the blah, 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 all you got to do is tell me heaven or hell. That's it. Just in the chat room. Just give me heaven or hell. I'm trying to be more interactive. I'm trying to have more fun with you guys. And this is a way that will require me to look at the chat room. So, heaven or hell. Here we go. Dead on this day. Dead on this day in 1919, Joseph Seagram's, the guy who invented whiskey. No, he didn't invent whiskey. Seagram's, he went on to be a billionaire. The Seagram's fortune and the Seagram's family have invaded all kinds of areas outside the world of spirits and whiskeys. They own television stations, and they own media conglomerates, and they own sports teams. The Seagram's family, all started by this guy, Joseph E. Seagram, dead on this day in 1990. He going to heaven or hell? Got one person playing. We got heaven. Why is he going to heaven? He's going to heaven because of Seagram's? I say he's going to hell. I override you. Here's why. Because he died in 1919. People didn't like, he was a bad guy in 1919. He's an evil whiskey guy. And I remember they made it illegal. Whiskey was not a cool thing. He's going to hell. He's also going to hell primarily, though, because he was a rich guy. And the Seagram's family, they're kind of bastards. How about this guy, dead on this day in 1940, Walter Chrysler. Now Walter Chrysler was the hotshot car designer of the era. He originally was in charge of production for Buick. He ran the Buick line, but then a new company sprouted up, and that company was called General Motors. And he went over to General Motors. He was stolen from Buick, and he ran General Motors, and he really changed the automobile industry. Walter Chrysler killed it. He built General Motors into a monster. And then one day he said, I want my own thing. And Chrysler motor cars were, I don't know if is Chrysler still, yeah, Daimler Chrysler. They merged with Daimler, the German brand. But Walter Chrysler, dead on this day in 1940. Hell. All right, everybody's saying hell. All right, robber baron. There you go. Sure. Any pejoratives you want to throw out there in association with your belief that they should burn in hell? That's fine. Sorry, Walter Chrysler, you're in hell. All right, 2004. Dead on this day, American composer and conductor Elmer Bernstein. Hold on. Heaven or hell, Elmer Bernstein. This ain't Leonard Bernstein. All week long, we've been talking about Leonard Bernstein, the super important composer who Bradley Cooper's been obsessed with and now wants to play him in a movie that he wrote and directed and financed and all this stuff. And he's doing it with a big old nose, and people are like, that's anti-Semitic. So we've been learning about Leonard Bernstein. Bunch of us, I West Side Story. That's it. That's all I can come up with. And I'm thinking, I must just be stupid because I thought the Bernstein name was associated with way more stuff than just West Side Story. And it turns out there's two of them. There's Leonard Bernstein and Elmer Bernstein. Elmer Bernstein, who I just clicked on the Wikipedia page and I'm like, why aren't they making a movie on this guy? Elmer Bernstein is like way bigger. He got way more stuff that we know about than Leonard Bernstein. Wait, no, one was, here's how they were differentiated because they were friends and they weren't related. They were friends. One was Bernstein West. That was Elmer Bernstein. He was known in the industry as Bernstein West because he was based in Hollywood. And he did all the stuff for movies and TV shows. And that's why he's more well known. Leonard Bernstein was called Bernstein East, just to differentiate. So when if you were like a producer, like, get me Bernstein East. And that would mean you wanted a guy who was going to do like show tunes and stuff like, because he did Broadway. We don't need to know this stuff. Heaven or hell, heaven. Well, we got one for heaven, one for hell, one for hell, one for hell, one for hell. Hell, he's going to hell. Elmer Bernstein. Sorry, buddy. Dead on this day in 2004. Dead on this day in 2014. Well, that's right, Jimmy. Don Pardo. The voice of NBC, the voice of Saturday Night Live. Saturday Night Live. I can't do a Don Pardo. I wish I could. That's right. Don Pardo was awesome. Man, that voice, you think about how Don Pardo. I don't care. I'm overruling you. Where is Don Pardo is going to heaven? You people have no say-so in this. I am overruling. Don Pardo is going to heaven. Bud Yorkin, he made a bunch of TV shows. Heaven for Pardo. You're damn right, heaven for Pardo. That's why I moved on so quickly. We're not even discussing it. Bud Yorkin. Bud Yorkin. You know what? I don't even want. I don't care. He's going to hell. Kofi Annan. I'm going to let you guys. I just see what you know about Kofi Annan. Kofi Annan, Ghanaian diplomat and 7th Secretary General of the United Nations. Kofi Annan died on this day in 2018. Is he going to heaven or hell? I'm going to let the chat room decide on this. I'm not going to say another word until I get at least. I'm not going to say. Do you people know anything about Kofi Annan, or have you just been listening to right-wing talk radio tell you the UN is bad? Hell? You think Kofi Annan is going to hell? Okay, that's fine. The room is spoken. Hey, around here. Sorry, Kofi. Yeah, I know. They don't know what you did. That's all right. They don't know what you went through. I know. It's cool. You were a part of the UN, and there's a segment of the world that thinks that this should all be chaos, and there shouldn't be a room in New York City where at least one person representing each country can be gathered together in an instant to maybe quell something really bad. There's a lot of people that think that's evil and that they're controlling us, but there's also a lot of people who think that JFK Jr. is still alive and that Tom Hanks is running a massive lizard person-funded child porn ring out of his garage in Hollywood. So all bets are off, and sorry, Kofi Annan, but you're going to hell because we live in an absolutely lunatic time. Of course, I have problems with the UN, but my God, Kofi Annan was not a bad guy. He was not. Now they'll make a movie. It'll be Kevin Hart's Kevin Hart will look. All comedians do this thing where they try and find a role. They try and find a role that will make them a serious actor. So it'll be Kevin Hart stars as Kofi. And it'll be like he'll be getting tortured by in a prison somewhere. And then people will go, hey, Kofi Annan, wow, he's like Gandhi. He ain't like Gandhi. I didn't mean to say that, but stupid people will say that. Anyway, Kofi Annan's an interesting character. He's an incredibly interesting guy. I mean, the very idea. I mean, look, if you made it to the General Secretary of the United Nations ship and you were a kid who was raised in private schools outside Cleveland, you'd be like, hey, he's pretty accomplished, but I see where he came from. When you make it to that position from where other people come from, it's like, wow, that's quite an accomplishment. I don't know how you did that. Hey, here's what we should do. Let's do this. Instead of arguing about the UN, which I have some real hot takes about. I mean, I do think it's a good, not everything the UN does is good. As a matter of fact, a lot of them are just bad. It's almost like a global Congress, full of crap our Congress is. There are times when that happens because political wants and all that, they get debated there. We ever have a really big thing? When the aliens come, look, I'm telling you this, when the aliens come, they're coming to the UN. That's all. That's honestly, all right, you caught me. If I'm being honest, the only reason same reason some crazy people want Israel to remain in the Middle East. I have a version of that. I want the aliens to go to New York in the UN. I need the UN to remain in New York so that when the aliens come, they'll have one place to talk to everybody, where it's just not going to be because we don't see that. See, I think that would be the expedited way to colonize this whole country. You got to come through. Oh, now I get it. Look at me. I've fallen through a glass ceiling here in my stream of consciousness, and now I am falling into a conspiracy hole. Maybe that's why the UN exists, because it's a way that it's a way for the aliens to control us. Oh man, that could be real. I have to think about that. Okay, in the meantime, let's transition. That could be real. That could be real. Tom Hanks could know lizard people. That could be real. I suppose you're right. I suppose it could be. All right, let's get into the topics of today. What do you say? We're going to run through all the hot topics, the current events, the trends, whatever it is. We'll get into it. But first, I want to take a moment here. Let me put the tipping thing back on here again, because as I say, this kind of talk radio, non-divisive, non-political. We just have fun. We talk about all kinds of things. Doesn't exist anymore. And if it does exist, it's going to be because of you. So if you can help us out with a tip, anything, Venmo, drop it in, Cash App, drop it in. Treat me like I'm your bartender. You enjoying this? You having a cup of coffee? You having a cocktail? You're going to get out of here? Maybe drop a little something on the bar. That's not a thing. That's not a thing here, right? Right? Yeah, I remember that. So like where I grew up, if you went to a bar and you were hanging out in a tavern, you would put like if you were going to be there all night, you might put $100 bill on the bar and you put a glass over it and it would be right in front of you. And the bartender would know that every time that your glass is empty or you need another beer, that they would just replace it and they would use that $100 bill. And each time you drank, this is back when we were on money. We're not on money anymore, so I don't know how it works. But as you drank throughout the night, the change obviously underneath the glass would get less and less because you're paying for your drinks as they go. Each drink, they take it out. And at the end of the night, when you leave, you walk away with whatever money is there. That's the tip. That's how it used to work. So do that. So tip me a couple bucks. You know, you love this kind of talk radio. If you want to see that it continues, help out the show if you can. I do want to thank some people. You see, I got it streaming down there. Some people came through this week. It wasn't a really great week for us as far as, keeping it going. But man, you have no idea. Like when it's a bad week and you get people like Leslie, and you know who I'm talking. Leslie, my go-to. Leslie dropped a little something for us. Christina P. Always so consistent. Always helps out. It gets us over the line. Terry helps out. A bunch of others, man. Mama Beller. Every time I see Mama Beller, I'm like, oh my God, look at this. Did I mention Lorenzo? Lorenzo tipped this week too. So thank you very much. But someone that I do want to thank, who every now and again, when you do it like this and you're scraping by, you get pretty anxious. You get like, oh, and we were really, really in a bad place last month. Really in a bad place. And one of you, and we'll say Tracy got us through. Just out of nowhere, Tracy dropped a tip. I think it was like on a Saturday night. I don't know. I have to go back and look at it. But it was game changing. So thank you so much to all of you guys. I mean, you have no idea how just maybe you think you're like, I should drop a little something. You have no idea how those things really do result in us being able to do these shows. So thank you so much for that. Appreciate it. Now let's move on to the topics of the day. Let's talk about all the things that people are buzzing about. These are the headlines, the hot topics, and all of that stuff. First and foremost, oppressive heat. Hey, do you guys remember a couple of days ago when it was like 80 degrees at 5 a.m? It was so nice. Okay, so right now, what is the current temperature here in beautiful Highland Park, Texas? Let's see. It's 105. It is currently 105 degrees in Highland Park, Texas. Now, I am sweating like a pig. I can't do that. It was like 100. It got over 110 yesterday, didn't it? I mean, my car said 115. And my car is always wrong because it's black. And when I first drive it, it's always like a little bit crazy. But it's always a little bit crazy by like 5 degrees. So I'm like, Jesus, if it's 115 in the car, that means it's 110 outside. All right, let's see what we're looking at here in North Texas as this incredibly awful summer continues. Today, they're saying a high of 108. No, I'm sorry. Yesterday was a high of 108. I thought it was 110. Okay, so it was 108 yesterday. Today, high of 110. Tomorrow, high of 109. Sunday, high of 110. Monday, high of 106. Tuesday, high of 104. Wednesday, high of 104. Thursday, high of 105. So it is going to be it's going to be well over 100 degrees every single day. What is the low? What is the best we're going to be able to look for? The best we're going to be able to look for is next Wednesday. 83 degrees will be the low. And that'll be at like 5 a.m. That'll be as good as it's going to get. 83 degrees. Ugh. My goodness. Okay. Doo-doo. Oppressive heat, as they say. It ain't stopping. Now, also, we need to mention here because the Texas power, it's because of the Republicans. Like, we've turned it into some sort of partisan argument about Texas power. Let me tell you something about the Texas power so far. It has been terrific. The so-called fragile Texas power grid, which, it failed 2 years ago during a freak storm over the winter. That was bad. I don't, had that happen somewhere else, would similar things happen? Look, I live in the Midwest. We have blizzards all the time. We lose power for days at a time. That's not rare when blizzards come through. So I'm starting to wonder if maybe the idea of this fragile, duct-taped together Texas power grid might be a bunch of nonsense, might be a bunch of politically drummed up nonsense from the left, just, because they need bad things to say about the right. Just as the right drums up all kinds of nonsense about the left, just because they need. Look, I'm in the middle. 2 years ago, it wasn't an oppressively hot summer, but I do remember 2 years ago there being rolling blackouts in this neighborhood. It only happened twice, and it wasn't all that inconvenient. It was only for about a half hour. I remember I went to the store. The power went out. I went to the store. I came back. The power was back on. Not a big thing. But this summer, it has been like 3 months of 100 degrees every day with every air conditioning unit in the entire state of Texas cranking at full force 24/7 because it's 100 degrees outside. And the power has been good. Till now. Till now, okay? So this is part of it. I understand. Well, I'm only saying what it's been so far. If the power goes out right now, and oh my God, wouldn't that be a thing? Wouldn't that be? You Pugs was talking about how power hadn't gone out and then the show got kicked off the street. Wouldn't that be a thing? So ERCOT, which is our state power grid, our operator, and I don't even know what they are. They're like the council that oversees it. State grid operator is now asking Texans to reduce energy use Thursday afternoon or from Thursday afternoon on as demand spikes. This is the second voluntary conservation notice. Voluntary, just why, that's good. Except will everybody do it? It's so hot. I have 2 air conditioning units in this, but I do not have it on in the room that I'm not in. I'm overseeing this big, beautiful Highland Park home on this property. I live in the guest house in the back. I'm overseeing this property. The air conditioning downstairs is set to like 80 degrees, and the one upstairs is off. There's no air conditioning. I mean, you got to do little things. You just got to do little things. Lights, turn off lights. Don't sit in the dark in the middle of the day. But my room is dark because I don't want the oppressive rays of the sun heating up. And I get that. I don't know, but there are little things that we can do. So ERCOT's asking us, please. They're being nice about it. They're not being Nazi Democrats, right? Like, I know that you like the Democrats would just cut power. Okay, stop it. Stop. This is about making sure that we all have good night's sleeps, right? This is to make sure that we're all not tossing and turning at 4 a.m. because it's 108 in our bedroom. So let's just all drop the nonsense about whose fault it is, and let's all just kind of understand that the people who have the jug of power, see, the power is a big jug of wine, and we got a big circle of people, right? And the person with the jug of wine, we're going to pass the jug of wine to everybody. Everybody's going to get a sip. And we're just asking you, just take a sip, all right? Don't be the guy that goes, well, may not come to me again. Don't be that guy. We're going to fucking shoot that guy. Oh, look at that. The Democrat in me coming out. I got no. It's a joke. Just be cool with power. That's exactly what ERCOT is asking. Be cool with power. ERCOT's like, man, we've been so lucky. We've gotten away with murder so far. Please, guys, be cool. That's all they're asking. They're just asking, please, guys, be cool. Hurricane Hillary is also trending. That's another weather event that is captivating this country because, man, this doesn't happen. Yesterday, I was like, this doesn't happen. They don't have San Diego's going to get hit by a hurricane. Remember the last time San Diego got hit by? No, you don't, because that don't happen. So San Diego, this will be like the first time that a hurricane has been on this side of the Baja Peninsula. Usually they come up through the Gulf on the other side. They hit Houston. They hit southern Texas. They roll through the Gulf. Maybe they crash into New Orleans. You know what I mean? Or they come from the other side. They come from Florida's side. And then they get shoved to the left. But this is a weird one. This is a weird storm. It started out as a tropical storm, and now it's a full-blown hurricane. And it's doing a weird thing. It's like moving straight up north instead of moving like northeasterly, which is how they would expect it to move. It should have crossed over the Baja Peninsula. That's what they were thinking. And it was they think the entire desert Southwest is about to get completely soaked. Which that's another thing here in North Texas. It hasn't rained in 6 months. I don't remember the last time it rained. It's just been heat. God, I'd love a rain shower. I will go dance in the rain. If it rains, oh God, you know how beautiful would it amazing? I guess I missed that about the Midwest. I missed the summer thunderstorm. It's not something that we get here. We get them in spring and in fall, but not in the summer. So Hurricane Hillary, let's check this out. Let's see what she's doing. She's going to make landfall, and it looks like she's going to rip right up through San Diego. Let's see, what's this first one here? There's a bunch of stuff. Okay, so this is going to be some cone pictures that we can look at. We can see the projected path of Hurricane Hillary. Tornado, close, just close. Get rid of that. There we go. Okay. I understand. Yes, okay, I understand your stupid rule about cookies. All right, so here, let's look at this. All right. So, yeah, you can't really, I guess it's kind of small whenever I share these things. But so what we're seeing is Hillary is at 5 p.m. Friday. She's down here. She's down here, and this is like Mexico, but she's moving north as opposed to like moving inland this way. She's moving straight up north in her path. Do you see this? 5 p.m. Sunday. I mean, this is Los Angeles right here. 5 a.m. Monday. She's going to crash in, or wait, maybe that's San Diego. Whatever. This is the whole San Diego, Orange County, Los Angeles area. They're about to get their ass kicked by a hurricane. Hey, maybe if they're lucky, there'll be an earthquake and a brush fire. Good Lord. California. Look at this. Okay, so here you go. What is this one? Hillary impacts. Flash flooding, oh, they're going to have mudslides. Oh, any excuse to have a good mudslide in California. There's going to be widespread power outages, rough surf, coastal erosion. Catastrophic. Okay, so it doesn't look like any of the landfall is being designated as catastrophic, as at least according to this list here. Nothing catastrophic, apparently. But some extreme and some high stuff going on right through San Diego and right into Los Angeles. Look at this. San Diego and Los Angeles. All right. There you have it. Oh, no. You know what? I want to look at what it really looks like, right? Here. Yeah. Yeah. Final countdown. That's what I'm doing. Okay, so here's a current look at it. Yeah, let's see what she's doing. This is from the Google map. All right. So what's interesting about this hurricane today, as opposed to yesterday when it was a little bit further down here at the tail end, seems to be moving slowly, which I bet they say is a bad sign because it gathers up the hot water from the Gulf and builds straight. I don't know. I'm just repeating nonsense I've heard meteorologists say about hurricanes. I don't know anything about them. Here's the one thing that I do notice, though. There is an eye. Yesterday, remember I said there did not appear to be an eye? No, this is a very tight eye. It's a very small eye. As if that gets bigger, then we're talking about bigger wind speeds. All right, so it's going up here. I guess they're saying it's going to go this way. It's not just going to go this way, which, you know, I don't know anything about these things, but I don't know, it seems like maybe this way would be the way it would go, right? But no, apparently it's going to like track up right up here. It's going to track up the West Coast. So there you have it. Something to look forward to late this weekend and early next week, California and Los Angeles, San Diego, as they deal with Hurricane Hillary. Camp David, there's big doings over there in Camp David there. President Biden is hosting the big muckety mucks of South Korea and Japan. And apparently they're going to make these guys shake hands. Did you know? Did you know that Japan and South Korea didn't like each other? Didn't know that. I didn't know that. I'm glad I know. I mean, now I know. Now I know they don't like it. Apparently, if this goes well, we can go back to thinking they like each other. I don't know what the issues are between Japan and South Korea. Seems like they ought to be looking at each other and going, you know, like that Spider-Man meme where all the different Spider-Mans are like pointing at each other. Like that. You would think that's how South Korea and Japan would see each other, but they don't. I mean, I get South Korea's issue, like South Korea, like if these were people, South Korea is just like, look, Japan, you're fine. It's just, no, I don't have time to hang out with you because have you seen what my brother North is up to? I can't, I'm busy with North. Like, I understand how South Korea's got much more pressing concerns about North Korea. And Japan is just like, I don't know, you're stuck up. South Korea, they don't pay enough. I don't know what the deal is. I'm just assuming that's the deal. And it's a stream of consciousness, so you're just going to have to deal with some of these dead ends that I run into every now and again. That's happening in Camp David, Japan and South Korea summit. Maui, let's check in on Maui. Of course, they had the terrible fires. There's 1,000 people. There's 1,000 people missing in Maui. That's not a good thing. Like a bunch of them, you know, a bunch of them may have just ran away and are just that. They're not ran away like I'm running away from home, but I mean just like escaped the fire. They're staying at a friend's house. They went to, you know, New York for whatever. I don't know what it is. So it's not 1,000 dead, but there's 1,000 people missing. They're not all going to be fine. Like that's not a good number. That's a number where you go, okay, God, maybe 100 show up. Maybe 100 of them are like 900. They still haven't searched some of the most affected areas. What they're trying to do is restore before they're like the people who survived have nowhere to live, no water, no nothing. So that's why the recovery efforts are taking a little bit longer to find these people. The big news out of there is that the emergency chief, the emergency alert, the person who's in charge of emergency situations in Hawaii, he resigned today. He resigned today under pressure among many criticisms of how the emergency management team there in Hawaii handled this fire. It was originally reported as being incredibly fast moving and there was nothing they can do. And I think maybe that was the narrative put out by the emergency management team, because now people are going, do you know they didn't even have sirens? There weren't even any sirens. They never sounded any sirens. And the reasoning was, well, that's not what they're for. Oh, wait, excuse me? That's what they said. That's what they initially said. That the sirens weren't sounded for the flames that were rushing down the hillside towards the cities. The sirens were for hurricanes, typhoons, and incoming missiles. Remember in 2018 when the emergency thing got set off on accident, where everyone in Hawaii got a text to their phone saying missiles are inbound, and the sirens all went off. So we know they got sirens, but for some reason the sirens were never sounded in any of the towns. People had absolutely no warning. And the head of the emergency management department there in Hawaii has resigned as of today, as probably he should, because that seems like a no-brainer. Did somebody flip the sirens? Oh, we forgot. Well, what are the sirens for? Harris County is trending down there by Houston way. We had a terrible story out of there the other day. A police officer making a traffic stop was shot by two hobbits. That's right, they were hobbits. One dude was 5'4", like 280 pounds. I don't know, is that right? No, 5'4". He was like 5'4", 180 or something. I don't know. It just sounded, the description sounded like little bowling ball hobbits. They're little monsters. That's what they are. They shot this officer. The officer had surgery. He was in stable condition as of yesterday. That hasn't changed. Oh, wait, maybe I should say that because I didn't see that update earlier. Anyway, they were on the run. There was one of them all points bulletins out for these guys. Two very short, heavy set guys who were wanted in connection with the shooting of this officer down there in Harris County, this Harris County deputy. So overnight, they caught one of them. They caught, or I don't know where the other one is. Here, I don't know where, they got one guy in a house and there was a standoff and it went on for hours and they eventually took him into custody. Here, you know what? Why don't we just do this? I think there's a story here we can watch because we talked about it yesterday. So we might as well see how it turned out. Here we go. This is how the story of the Houston Hobbits. That should be the name of their gang. There you go.
The arrest happened after a standoff that last.
Man accused of shooting several law enforcement officers has been arrested.
The arrest happened after a standoff that lasted hours. Our Kennedy Walker joins us live in studio with more on this breaking news.
Hey, good morning, Keith and Brooke. 34-year-old Taryn Green is accused of shooting 3 law enforcement officers in just the last 24 hours. This is his photo. We brought you this story yesterday following an intense manhunt for Green. Green was initially wanted for allegedly shooting a Harris County Sheriff's deputy during a traffic stop. And right now you're looking at some of the video. This is the dramatic video of a tactical vehicle that was seen breaking windows and walls of the house. Cameras were rolling as Green was arrested after.
What is going on here? What? This is how they got him out of the house?
Cameras were.
Are you seeing this? Look at him. Can you guys see that? What is he doing? Is he hanging? Is he being rescued from a house fire? How is he hanging? Why is he? Like, couldn't he just let go and run away? What is he doing here? I don't know what this is. Here, now let me back up the tape. And you're going to be able to see here. They're using like one of those wrecking machines to just like, it's like a robot wrecking arm and it just goes to the front of the house and rips off the top of the house and all that stuff. I do want to make mention that I don't think they do that in Highland Park to one of these $10 million mansions. That was imported Italian marble. I don't think.
Video of a tactical vehicle that was seen breaking windows and walls of the house. Cameras were rolling as Green was arrested after he barricaded himself inside of a home and allegedly shot 3 more law enforcement officers, 2 more law enforcement officers while they closed in on him.
What is going on?
Our hope now is that first and foremost that those that have been injured and wounded, that they make a full recovery. And then secondly, that Green is prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law and that justice is served.
Now, Green has a lengthy criminal background dating back to 2007. All of the officers were taken to the hospital where thankfully they are expected to be okay.
All right, there you go. Down there in Houston, they caught one of them fabled urban hobbits. And looks like all the police officers are going to be okay. Trump debate. We don't talk a lot about the Trump guy or the Biden guy, but Trump debate. Here's what's happening. There's a big Republican debate coming up next week. Whole bunch of guys. Here's the thing. All of them want him to show up for whatever reason. He ain't going to show up. He says he's not showing up. He's like, I'm the only choice. Why do I need to debate? He's doing that, which is fine. But he don't want to he don't want to go up there. He don't want to go up there because, as I say, everybody wants him up there. Why? Because half of them want to kiss his ass. Half of them want to be like, make me a VP. Like half of them are bucking for that job. Talking about the Swamps. Maybe a Tim Scott. Although Tim Scott's kind of doing a different thing. Tim Scott's like being the nice guy, which is, sort of a nice change of pace. You keep being the nice guy, Tim Scott. Let's see where that goes. But then you got a couple of other guys up there. Like you're gonna have Christie up there, and Christie's like, yeah, come on, Trump. Like Christie's like a New Jersey guy. He's hardcore. Came from the neighborhoods, not like Trump, some elitist silver spoon. Like Christie wants to get into it with him. Christie wants to like humiliate him. And Christie is really quick-witted. And I don't think Trump is. I think Trump is funny. But I think Trump is funny because Trump knows comedy and he knows how to make people laugh. But he's not quick-witted. Chris Christie's pretty quick. And that's how somebody who's very performatively comedic, which is Trump is very, he does the faces and the wah, he's very funny. He's very entertaining. But the way those people get just absolutely dissected is by somebody who's a quick wit, who can just, let them be silly and then just and that's what Christie wants. Christie wants that. So everybody wants him and he ain't going to do it. He ain't going to do it. Here's why. If I was a Trump advisor, I'd be saying, why would you do it? Why on earth would you go up there? Just keep saying what you're saying. You're the choice. You're leading in the polls. These guys, let them debate for second place if they want. Something like that. There is no reason for him to go up there because you don't understand. I mean, one of the things that we know about Donald Trump is that he seems to be a man of his own mind, which means that he will listen to other people. But if the advice he doesn't like, he's always this close to just being him uncensored, which is what a lot of people like about him. But if you send him up there on that debate stage and he just, I don't know, for some reason or other, he just loses his old man shit and like goes bonkers in like a really bad look way, that's lose-lose. Why? He doesn't need to do it. So that's the debate that's going on. Some people think, maybe Trump will show up. Be cool if he did. I mean, I would like him to from a pure entertainment standpoint. He's the rock star, right? It's like watching these preseason football games. I want to see Justin Field play Saturday, but he's not. He's not going to sit. He's not going to play this Saturday. Not because he's hurt or anything, but because it's preseason. And he's been practicing against the Indianapolis Colts all week. So the coaches are like, yeah, you've got your reps against another team. Take a seat, game 2. That's what Trump is. It's like if he's not there, if he's not on stage, it's a preseason debate. It doesn't mean nothing if he ain't there. So from that perspective, I want him there. But if I was debating him, I'd say, dude, this is nothing good can come from this. You're not, people who love you already love you. They love you so much. They're not going to go, I love him more. No, you're going to hold water with that. You're going to hold water with your people. And by the way, you're running away with what these people are debating for. The thing that they're trying to get, you are dominating. So the only thing that you could do is possibly go down, make one of them. Why would you show up for that? I don't get it. There's no reason for him to. I mean, it's unprecedented, right? Every candidate has well, he was a pretty new kind of president. So don't throw this. That's just unprecedented. Everything since 2016 has basically been unprecedented. So. All right, moving on. Southwest Jet. I love me some Southwest Airlines, and it's not because I'm in a tank for all of our Dallas corporations, but I love Southwest Airlines because I've lived in 2 places. The 2 places that I've lived in is Chicago, Illinois, and Dallas, Texas. And both of those places are hubs for Southwest Airlines. So flying between those places is an absolute delight. There is no easier flight from DFW than to Chicago because it goes into Midway. And you know how Love Field is all Southwest all the time? That's what Midway is. Midway in Chicago is Southwest. It's like all Southwest. And it is so nice now. And for years, you couldn't fly. You could not fly between Chicago and Dallas direct. You had the Wright Amendment. You had to land in another state at an airport and pay taxes at that airport. It's the crazy thing because United Airlines and American Airlines got mad because they knew Southwest could fly people between places like Chicago and Dallas a lot quicker, a lot safer, and a lot cheaper than they were willing to do so. So they created the stupid Wright Amendment. And then finally, a few years back, they got rid of it. So now you can fly nonstop on Southwest. Long story short, I love Southwest. I absolutely love it. Here's the other thing I love about Southwest. Did you know that a Southwest plane has never crashed? That's right. They've never had a death from they had a plane, they had a plane skid off a runway and kill people that were sitting at a stoplight outside the airport. Like there was a street outside the airport. The plane slid on an icy, but that's the closest thing to an accident that I believe Southwest has had. But watch this. Okay, so this went down. Imagine this is you. Imagine this is. I hate window seats in airplanes. I'm a bad flyer. I hate the window seat. Imagine you're in the window seat and this is what you're seeing. Okay, check this nonsense out. Oh, geez.
Board a Southwest Airlines flight earlier.
Hold on, let's do that again.
This week. New this morning, some terrifying moments on board a Southwest Airlines flight earlier this week. Passengers looking out their windows to see this bursts of flames and smoke appearing to shoot out of the right side jet engine.
I mean, really? I mean, what are you doing? You're on this flight. You're on this flight and you're looking out at the window and you're seeing the engine and you're seeing the engine just spurting missiles of flame out. Oh, man, I want to go home. 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 Oh, these poor people, man. These people who had this. Seriously, these poor people who had to sit and watch this and go through the next 15, 20 minutes before they got on the ground safely. Oh, my God. Never flying again.
Engine. This all happened after takeoff on Tuesday in the skies over Houston as the plane was traveling to Cancun. Passengers say they could feel that something was wrong, but everyone stayed calm.
A minute of turning, you felt the plane kind of go side to side like we were in a crosswind, but then it started like shifting this way and going side to side, and immediately we all started looking at each other like that's not something we're avid flyers. We know, and that's not something we've ever experienced.
Now, the plane was in flight just about 27 minutes before turning back. A Southwest spokesperson said the jet landed safely and was taken out of service for review.
Well, I would hope so. I would hope, yeah, you'd put that up on blocks for a couple of days and maybe get old Gus to take a look at it, because that ain't right. It did bother me that girl said she was an avid flyer. She used it in the context to suggest that she flies a lot and therefore she knows that it wasn't normal. An avid flyer would frequent, right? I mean, she used it. Now I got to see if avid could be used appropriately there. I wouldn't. What is an avid flyer? All right, let's see.
According to Wikipedia, the avid flyer is a family of American single-engine.
Oh, really? Okay, whatever. I guess I don't know what avid means. Maybe she's right. Maybe I'm sitting here because of my limited education. See, this is what an open mind looks like. Instead of doubling down with, that didn't sound right, I'm going, oh, maybe I could be incorrect. As I try and think of what avid, the proper use of the word avid. Because we've heard it, avid flyer, but I think that means like an enthusiastic flyer. Like, I like to fly. I'm an avid flyer. I don't think that means I fly all the time. I'm a frequent flyer. I don't think it's the same thing. Okay. Anyway, let's move on because there is no reason for us to get into that. Britney Spears is getting a divorce. Guys, I have to make a confession to you. I was really upset. I was so mad at myself for this. Excuse me. Got an itch. I was so mad at myself for this. I had the story yesterday. I had the story in our rundown yesterday, and somehow I skipped over it. And at the end of the show, I was sitting here, I was eating lunch, and I saw a story come out about Britney Spears, and I go, I talked about that. And then I went, hey, wait a second. Why didn't I talk about Britney Spears today? So here we go. Britney Spears is getting a divorce. Surprise, surprise. After 1 year of marriage to Sam Ashgash, I can't pronounce his last name. It's one of them crazy, lot of letters, in places that I'm not used to them being kind of last names. He was a background dancer. And she's Britney Spears. All right, so this is the dude that she married as soon as she got out of her conservatorship, and everybody was like, no, don't have the first thing you do is get married to some dude because you're a chick worth like $100 million. I thought at one point she was worth more than that, but I did a quick, how much is Britney Spears worth? And I cross-checked it twice with 3 different sites, and 2 of them agreed. 2 of them were kind of in the same ballpark. So I'm like, okay, that's got to be it. So we're going to put Britney's wealth at $100 million. So now here's what's happening. So so they filed for divorce. It's a divorce. They're going through a divorce after a year and like a month of being married. They're going through a divorce. Now, the reason is that Sam is saying that she cheated on him and that Sam is apparently, the reports are now that Sam is telling Britney and her team of people that I know I got a prenup, but I know some stuff now. I've been involved with you for a while. I know some stuff. I'm going to give up all the Britney dirt. You know how many people would pay for the Britney dirt that I got? So pay me more. Now, I don't know what his prenup is, but it's got to be pretty good, right? Like, it can't be like, if we get divorced, you don't get anything. No, that's not how prenups work. You get something. You know what I mean? So I'm like, what is it? I'll give you an example. I don't know if she had a prenup. I don't think she had a prenup on Federline. Oh, Federline. Here, this is great. So she's got 2 kids with Federline. And for some reason, he's raising them. What? How is that a thing? How bad is Britney that Kevin Federline is the one that the courts decided should have primary custody care over the children? So he's been raising them. So Kevin Federline has been raising the little Britney kids for like 18 years. He's been getting $20K a month. So he gets $20,000 a month. Do the math. That's a really nice living. Those kids can be raised in a nice suburb, nice house, car, vacations. That's good. That's not like those kids didn't get raised. But $20 grand a month's a lot of money. It's good money. It's a nice, secure living. That's less than I thought. I would have thought that Britney would have had to have paid more than that. So I don't know what. Here's the other awesome thing about it. Here's what Kevin Federline's doing. This is hysterical. This is a story that was linked to the story about the divorce, about just all the stuff going on in Britney's life and these awful men that she marries. She marries the worst men. And we'll go through this list. Kevin Federline has recently moved the boys from California to Hawaii. You know why? Because in Hawaii has child support laws that are different than Los Angeles or different than California. In California, if he stayed in California with the kids, Britney would be able to stop paying $20 grand a month when the last kid turned 18. But in Hawaii, it's 23. So he moved the kids to Hawaii to get 5 more years of child support out of Britney. Oh, all right. Piece of crap, right? All right, so there you go. There's Federline. She married a piece of crap. How about this guy? How about this guy, Sam? Sam, this is a man that was married to her for a year and a half. He knows that she's troubled. You know, you would think that somebody would be, look, we're not going to be married anymore. We're getting a divorce, but let's get through this and you think there'd be some care, some kindness, some decency. Oh, no. Sam is shopping her dirties. Sam is like, I know we were married and we were a team and you trusted me implicitly, but now that we're divorced and I'm trying to shake you down for money, I'm going to go to the New York Post with pictures of you pooping on a bed. I don't know. That's an Amber Heard thing, but maybe young Hollywood is into pooping on a bed. That's the piece of garbage there that she married. Do you remember the other piece of garbage that she married? Remember when she married Jason Alexander? Not George from Seinfeld, but the kid she went to high school with? Remember she married him in Vegas for like 24 hours? And we were all like, well, he don't know. He's just a dupe. No, he's a piece of trash too, because he showed up back in the headlines when she married Sam a year and a month ago. You remember this? Somebody paid her first husband to crash the wedding for a viral video. So there's another D-bag. Has Britney Spears ever been in a relationship with a decent man? I don't even say decent, because whatever you want. She seems to go for these obvious moronic D-bags, which, you know, I'm sure she's a moronic D-bag. Boy, I'll tell you, all it took was about a year after the whole world was like, I'm so glad for Britney. All it took was for about a year for us to go, oh, yeah, she does kind of suck. This is ridiculous. She's this guy. I look at Pugs. Why are you blaming her? He seems like he's obviously an a-hole. But he's not the celebrity and the reason for the trend. She's the reason for the trend. So I'm talking about her. Wise up, Britney. The state gave your kids to Kevin Federline. That's who you are. And you're marrying backup dancers who are the type of person who, after you get a divorce, they're going to use everything against you. Now, I know that that's not unique to you. There's a lot of people get married to bad people, but you had Kevin Federline there too. So you've got a bunch of bad choices. Like, could you see like Britney Spears? I'm trying to think of somebody like, who's like a celebrity that would like be a shock if they turned out, because like, if you were ever on Jackass, like I could see that person dating Britney Spears, you know, something like that. But like, what about like, I'm trying to think, is there anybody with some dignity or any kind of Here you go. Here's one. Like, let's say that Colin Jost and Scarlett Johansson get divorced and Colin Jost is single. Like, could you imagine like Colin Jost and Britney Spears? She wouldn't choose him, right? She doesn't choose those kinds of people. She chooses like, you know, it could have been a professional surfer if not for the injury. Those are the guys she chooses because she's an idiot. All right, moving on. Here's a little something. Here's a little something. I'm gonna take a position, and I think you're gonna be shocked by. There's a story going around today about mega rich musicians and how they built the system for COVID dollars. So there's a whole bunch of musicians who are being named in this story. By the way, let me before we get too far down into this story about how these mega rich rock stars and musicians built us hardworking taxpayers out of all of our money during COVID. Let me just say before we get into the details there, none of this is illegal. This is all legal. This is all above board. It's just without context, which means the information behind it. As a standalone headline, yeah, it's a bad look. As a standalone headline, it's a bad look. But when you actually like learn about what it is, you realize, oh, this isn't a story at all. This is just a headline specifically designed to use the name of favorite celebrities in a suggested way that they've done something wrong just to get clicks. But they haven't done anything wrong. They did nothing wrong. So here's the story. Revealed how mega rich musicians, including Post Malone, Chris Brown, Leon Rimes, and Nickelback, bagged up to $10 million in COVID emergency grants they didn't have to pay back. Like, that's the attitude. I hate this shit. Yeah, that's a bad look. That's a bad look. What do you mean 10 million of my tax dollars went to Nickelback? I mean, I know they're cool and all, but ain't they Canadian? Right. No, okay. So look, this is not the story. Here's the story. Here's these bands, these acts, these touring enterprises. They are not individuals. Like, I know that the name associated with it might be Leanne Rimes, but it's like Leanne Rimes Entertainment or Leanne Rimes 2020 World Tour. That's who the recipient of the money was, not the person. Chris Brown went to his mailbox and got a check for $10 million from us taxpayers. No. The money went into the company that had to shutter an ongoing tour that was maybe employing 1,000 people. See, that's what this was for. This wasn't for rock stars who already, no, this was about people who, like, let's say if you were in the middle of a world tour, there were a lot of people in the middle of a world tour. Now, world tours for big name acts, they generate tens of millions of dollars. And we're not just talking about in the pocket of the rock star. We're talking about the lighting crews and the arena staff and the touring buses and the roadies and all of those people. It is a business. I know you don't look at it like it's an accounting firm, but it's a business. And this is the job that these people do. And when you are expecting to be on tour for the next 13 months, that's your job, and you're suddenly out of work. So when these acts, these musical acts, received this money, it went to these people. So just if you see this headline going around, Nickelback was trending, like people needed a new excuse to take down Nickelback. But just understand, this wasn't like checks to the lead singer of Nickelback. No, this went because all of these acts, all of these tours had to be suspended because of the government mandated lockdowns. And if you got $1,000 because you lost money or your job or whatever, just like all taxpayers, these people who do lighting for Leanne Rimes, that's their job. They get paid. That's why they're getting that money. I just hate the whole idea that let's make people mad at rocks. It's like, no, context. Read the story. Understand what's happening here. Marion County Register. We were talking about this. This is that newspaper in Kansas or wherever it is. Remember the police, the cop, they were investigating the cop because he apparently got dismissed from the Kansas City Police Department for sexual harassment. And now he's the chief in their town. So they're doing this investigation. The investigation went nowhere. They decided not to do the story. Doesn't matter. The chief kicked in the door, stole all the servers. You are violated their First Amendment right. And a judge signed off on it. This story gets crazier and crazier. So now we look at the judge who signed off on it. The judge who signed off on the warrant to seize the entire operation of the Marion County Register, an American newspaper, an established American newspaper. That judge has multiple DUIs and is apparently involved in all kinds of shady warrants over the years because people who know about the DUIs are keeping it a secret from her. So this is apparently one of them judges. We've seen this, at least they're making this out to be. We've seen this depicted in movies and TV. You know, when like a shady cop needs to get a warrant from a judge, it's always like a judge. I can get a warrant for anything I want. I got pictures of Judge Einstein, you know, stuff like that. And then they go to the judge, and the judge is always like, I'll sign your warrant, but this is the last dirty warrant I'm signing for you, McCluskey. You know, that kind of stuff. Well, it turns out that looks like that might have been the situation, that this cop got the warrant to knock down this entire newspaper because this judge had a bunch of DUIs that she wanted to keep secret. Well, it ain't secret now. How's a judge get a DUI? That's so weird. All right, here's a fun little list. I got a list for you. Let's do a list. You know, I like to do lists. We like to do lists as they pertain to cities or places that we might one day find ourselves living. This list today, this is a fun one. What cities in this grand old land of ours, what cities will give you the most bang for your buck if that buck happens to be a $100,000 bill? So basically, these are the cities where a $100,000 salary will give you the best value. Okay, let's look at the 10 U.S. cities where $100,000. Man, I am old enough to remember when $100,000 a year was a lot of money. Or if a guy was making $100,000 a year, I mean, it's still good money. Still good. You're a successful person. You can live a nice life. But it ain't what it was 20 years ago. It certainly ain't what it was 40 years ago. All right, number 10 on your list of cities here in this grand old US of A. Number 10, where $100,000 gets you the most bang for your buck. To determine how much $100,000 is worth in the 76 largest U.S. cities, we use its paycheck calculator, calculate take-home pay after take. Okay, so number 10 is St. Louis. St. Louis, where $100,000 gives you the spending power of $79,000. Number 9, Arlington, Texas. Hey, look at us here at Arlington. Arlington, Texas is number 9 city where $100,000 a year goes the furthest. Number 8, hey, look at us. San Antonio, Fort Worth, Texas. Fort Worth, Texas. Arlington and Fort Worth, 9 and 8 on the list. Number 7, San Antonio. Number 6, Houston. Number 5, Lubbock. Number 4, Corpus Christi. Why are they all Texas? No state taxes. That's why. Because all the other states, they're going to take a big chunk out of your $100,000 paycheck for state taxes. Corpus Christi is 4. Oklahoma City, Oklahoma is number 3. I don't want to live in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. Hell, I don't want to drive through Oklahoma City. I have detoured around that mess. Number 2, city where $100,000 goes the furthest. El Paso, Texas. El Paso. And number 1, what's the American city where $100,000 goes the furthest? You could live the best. Here's a city I could totally live in. I like this city. This city's got a vibe, man. Memphis. Of course, I'm banned from Graceland, so I wouldn't be able to partake in that city's most notable tourist attraction, but that's fine. I could live in Memphis. I've been to Memphis a lot of times. I like Memphis. Memphis is fun. You can have a good time in Memphis. Memphis has an edge. Maybe that's how I live. I like a city with an edge. Memphis, bit of an edge. All right, there you go. Hey, here's a story that I'm going to leave you with today because we're just about out of time here. So here's a story that I'll leave you with. It's a sad story. Sad story. It's not sad. It's just kind of a bummer. And kind of a fun fact for maybe some of you people know this place. The Grapevine Bar on Maple. It's not a gay bar. I guess. always tell me, it's not a gay bar. I saw 2 dudes in there. They were holding hands. Yeah, that's fine. It's like just a really like cool place. It's not a gay. The Grapevine is a bar on Maple Avenue. We're right adjacent to the what's known as the Gayborhood here in Dallas. I I was turned on to the Grapevine during a brief period of time when I worked over at Cumulus here in town. So it's like it's the bar that all the ticket guys go to. Like after work, it's the bar where all like the people who work in the Cumulus building go to. It's like, so I don't know. I thought that was a gay bar. No, it's not a gay bar. It's not a gay bar. Anyway, it's a cool bar, man. It was just a really cool, funky offbeat. The Grapevine right there on Maple. Dallas's historic Grapevine bar says goodbye to its Maple Avenue location. As the Grapevine bar in Dallas prepares to close after 27 years on Maple Avenue, the odd items inside the bar are slowly disappearing too. And this is why I mentioned this, because this was what's always so cool about this bar. There's just crazy, weird knickknacks everywhere. Like, well, they'll describe some of them. Bar owners Michelle Hanea and Ronnie Hanea have put yellow tape on items in their bar that are for sale, like the pink felted pool table with the purple bumpers and the basketball hoop that resides out back near the garden. There are things people have asked for that we would have never thought they wanted, Michelle says. Someone wanted part of the fence. Literally, we sold our kitchen sink to somebody. The Grapevine bar, again, it's right over by Scottish Rites Hospital. If you know where Scottish Rites is, it's right across the street from that incredible building, the Scottish Rites building. Soon, the putty-colored pint-sized bar will be bulldozed by the company that has developed Old Parkland. Oh, there you go. So that's Scottish Rites and Old Parkland Hospital. That's in that area. The Haneas are moving the Grapevine to the former Redfields neighborhood tavern in the Dallas Medical District. All right. Many have wondered, can they recreate the Grapevine in a different place? Nah, I haven't wondered that. I just won't ever go to the Grapevine. They could have installed a new bar. Hold on, what does it say? They could have installed a new bar top at the new place, but that would be so un-Grapevine. See, it was a dive. It's a dive bar. It's a tavern with all kinds of funky stuff inside of it. It was originally intended to be a wine bar. And then they were like, nobody wants wine. So it just became a neighborhood hangout bar. And through the only way I know about it is because it became like the ticket hangout, the secret place. Now I'm giving away the secret. Well, it's closing anyway. But it was like if you wanted to hang, if you loved the ticket and you were crazy like 20 years ago and you just wanted to go have a drink, you go over there like at 7:00 at night and there was going to be a bunch of your favorite, guys there. And or maybe you listen to the Bone or whatever, any BAP, any of the other Cumulus stations that broadcast from right there. That was the bar. That was the bar everybody hung out at. Its new start at Redfield's Tavern is significant too. The Grapevine was never actually a gay. Okay, here we go. Okay. I was just talking about this. It's like gay bar adjacent. It's just nobody cares. It's not a gay bar. It's not a gay bar. There's chicks in there all the time. And all right, so what does it say now about that issue? Let's see. The manager says we've always played with the reputation that people were never sure if we were a gay bar or not. Okay. Its new start at Redfield's Tavern is significant too. The Grapevine was never actually a gay bar, but it's always been a friendly place for gay people. Well, yeah, because it's in the neighborhood. It's of course, yeah, not just because of that. It's because we don't care if a dude who happens to be homosexual wants to come into a bar, watch a game, and drink a beer. Whatever. None of that bad music, though. Don't let the gay guy near the jukebox. It'll just be nothing but RuPaul songs. And I'm kidding. We've always had a check your attitude at the door sign, says Michelle. Back in 96, we were kind of the only place that if you were gay or if you were straight and you really didn't care if you were all hanging out together, it didn't matter. This was that place. It's just a place for everybody. It's not a gay bar. You gotta be gay if you go there. So the first time somebody said that, actually, it was the first time I was being brought over there. I was being brought over there by my program director. It was after we first started. He's like, we'll get a drink. We'll go to Grapevine. We'll grab a drink. And I'm like, yeah, sure. And I stuttered for a second because I didn't know the Grapevine. I wasn't familiar with it. And he thought that I was stuttering because I thought it was a gay bar or something. So I remember Gary going, we'll go to Grapevine. You want to get a drink? Yeah. It's not a gay bar. I don't know why some people think that. It's not a gay. And I'm like, no, I didn't think it was a gay bar. But that was the first time I heard that. And then I go over there and yeah, we had a good time. So we used to go there for cocktails, post-show meetings and stuff, and other shows would meet there. It's sad. There you go. We get old. Places change, things move. The old grapevine there on Maple is no more. No more. What is Adam? Adam knows a little thing about Redfields. He says, I used to live on Cedar Springs and Lucas and was within walking distance, though I frequented JR's more because my roommate worked there. Well, JR's is definitely a gay bar. I've been to JR's. Redfield's closed, he says. I was wondering why I didn't pick up or drop off there. Yeah, apparently that Redfield's location over there is soon going to morph into... No, Ross is like, those chicks are called lesbians. No, I'm telling you, it's not like that. It's hard to explain. Like, it was like a fun. I mean, you could watch sports there. Well, I suppose you can do that at JR's too. You can do that in sports. You can do that at gay bars. No, it wasn't a gay bar. And if it was, so what? It didn't feel like anything that I was, or it didn't feel like a place where I should feel uncomfortable. You know, guys and girls. I mean, I've been in there with girls. I've been to the Grapevine with girls that I was romantically involved with. I mean, so it's not a gay bar. My friends have been there. I met people. Anyway, it's a very cool bar. And I like to doff my cap to people who know how to operate a cool bar, because there are a lot of people out there who don't. A lot of people out there, they think they can just open a bar, and nope, that ain't the way it works, my friend. We're out of time. Guys, did I tell you how excited I am? Tell you about this weekend, this kids weekend. So we'll pause this. So kids growing up, man. I know, all of you guys who have had 14 that's like, this is the age now where I'm like, oh, this is different. This is different. He's not, you know what I found myself doing yesterday? I have a file on YouTube, on one of my YouTube channels, of just all these videos that I made of him when he was a little kid. He was just such a sweet little kid. Oh, look at my little guy. And now he stinks and he smells. And, he's a big old football meathead, and he plays with like crazy aggression. Like, I don't know. He just used to be so sweet. And now he's just like, he gets himself into like a headspace, right? Like, I'm going to be like Dad, right? I'm showing up for his first high school football game. If they had a pennant, I'd have a pennant. I'd be waving it. Yeah. All happy and all that good stuff. And then he's going to ignore me. No, he loves me and we have a great relationship. And he's not going to completely ignore me. But like, if he walks by me when he's in like football uniform, he's going to walk by me. He's going to look like this. And then he'll go like this. And then right back, like he'll acknowledge me, and I'm like, That's his mama. His mama's a killer. So we're very excited. He's also good. I shouldn't be afraid to say that, because it sounds like your dad bragging, but he's very good. He's a bit of an animal. He's already the captain of his offense, and he's the center. That's pretty crazy. So we're very, very proud of him. Big game tonight going on right down the block. I'm expecting. Here's the other problem. And I know there's no way he's listening to this because he's in class, so I can say this. Here's the other problem. I think they're going to get crushed. Now, he comes from a high school that throughout history in northern suburbs, there's Plano area. He's going to a high school. He's bringing a football team. Representing a football team that has had their victories. But they're not known as just a perennial powerhouse. I think they won state in the 70s. That's a big thing. District champions like within the last 5 years. So, they're fine. But man, they're coming to play Highland Park High School. Remember how I said they're not perennial champions or anything like that? You know who is? Highland Park High School. So his first game is basically going to be against a real high school football program. And he goes to a real high school. I didn't mean to say that he doesn't go to a real high. What I mean is, I mean it in the romantically, overly explicit way. I'm being flowery. I mean, of course that's a real high school football program. But Highland Park is like Highland Park High School football. If you were, probably one of the top 50 high school programs in the country. Probably. First Matthew Stafford. How many professional athletes played high school football at Highland Park? So that'll be interesting. And also, it's also interesting because these kids from this very nice school up in the suburbs who have all these modern things. They get to come down here and they get to play at Scott Stadium, which is Highland Park football stadium. Highland Park High School is about 100 years old. The stadium is like, it's almost like playing in Fenway, you know, for these kids who typically play in these beautiful Texas suburban football stadiums. Oh, they're nice. Remember that one? What's that one up in Allen that is like nicer than most of the major Division I college stadiums I've been to? Just gorgeous. I mean, that's where he's used to playing. So they're coming in, they're going to play at Scott Stadium. They're going to hear the roar of traffic from the tollway. Yeah, it's going to be very exciting. So that's tonight. So we're going to have a good weekend, me and the boy. What's the matter, baby? That was the dog. What's the matter, baby? You want to go outside? You don't want to go outside. It's 106 degrees right now.
I have got my poetry. I have got my songs. To see me through the lonely nights.
Ain't nobody dying in the chat room. What's going on in the chat room? Who's talking about? Let me see. Never mind.
To be strong.
Happy to be strong.
I am like the dancing bear, trained to be the best. I am on a never-ending
Oh, it's
quest.
so hot. It's so hot. It's so hot. It's so not fun. Hey, tip the show. If you want to help support this kind of talk radio, tip the show. Venmo, Cash App right there. Help out. Didn't hear any clings today, but that's okay. I still love you. God, thank you.
Things are going good. I always had to be on guard. That is understood.
I can't tell if Byron and Adam are fighting in the chat room or if they're just clowning each other.
It has been a journey, a multi-answer test.
Test.
I am on a never-ending quest.
All right, I got to go stand next to the air conditioner. That's the other problem. Do you remember back when I used to complain about how it was so cold up here in the Comfort Nest studios because we had an air conditioning central air unit that was like designed for a stadium? It just blew really cold. It got cold all the time. Well, that central air system went out and we decided we weren't going to replace it. So we just did a couple of window units, which should be able to cool this place down nicely. And it does. And boy, oh boy, has it been under pressure this summer. It's been crazy. Of course, air conditioners running 24/7. Here's the problem though. I do this show from an area of a room that is away from where the two things are blowing. So I get like secondhand air that drifts over to me. So when I do the show, I typically do the show from a corner of this studio that is probably about 100 degrees at any given moment. And I am sweating.
The best is yet to come.
The best is yet to come. All right, guys, I'm going to go stand by the air conditioner. Love you. See you on Monday. You're the best. Bye. No, yeah. Oh, yeah. We'll see you on Monday for the High Noon Show. So we do the High Noon Show. But again, we got comedy class on Monday night. So there is no Radio Misfits show at 9 p.m. Monday night. The Radio Misfits shows will continue or resume, I should say, Tuesday at 9 o'clock.
I have got an old guitar, that is all I need. I don't need no 401, I don't have the greed. Down the road I'll travel, far from the comfort nest.
Comfort Nest Live!
On a never-ending quest.
All right, guys, I gotta go. Seriously, I'm gonna go stand next to the air conditioner for the next couple of minutes while the song runs out. All right, bye.
I have found a different way, so baffling to some. I can smile a little now, things are going good. I always had to be on guard, that is understood. Down the road I'll travel, far from the comfort nest. I am on a never-ending quest. I am on a never-ending quest.